went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every infirmity among the people. So his fame spread throughout all the Syria, and they brought him all the sick, those afflicted with various diseases and pains, demoniacs, epileptics, and paralytics, and he healed them. And great crowds followed him from Galilee, and the Decapolis, and Jerusalem, and Judea, and from beyond the Jordan. Seeing the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are those who meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men revile and persecute you, and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely for my account. Rejoice and be glad, and your reward is great in heaven, for so men persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost its taste, and how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trodden underfoot by men.
Glory to you, O Lord. Glory to you. The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you.
Please be seated. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory forever.
Good morning.
Good morning, Father.
Today, for our feast day of St. Nectarios, the namesake of our church. For those of you who were here last night or perhaps listened online, during some of the weekday liturgies, we usually have Old Testament readings that are done. There was 3 readings last night from the Old Testament, all of them from Solomon. Now, Solomon was known, obviously, for his wisdom, right? Because he was a wise man. He's supposedly the wisest man that had ever existed. And perhaps maybe the wisest man still. We're not counting Jesus. Jesus is a little bit off to the side, right? Because he's fully man and fully God, so he has all the wisdom, right? And the word that we use in Greek, Sophia, right, for wisdom, whenever we do the entrance, the small entrance just a few minutes ago, and whenever you hear it in Greek, it's Sophia or Thi, right? Wisdom arrives. That word Sophia, right, is a feminine word, right? That's why we always call wisdom her or she, right? She. And through those readings last night, we hear all about wisdom. Everything's about wisdom. And if you don't have those readings, you didn't hear those, I got a copy of the Vespers last night. Write that down and read about them. Because wisdom is something that we must have. But how do you get wisdom? Right? What does wisdom actually mean? Because wisdom is actually separate from intelligence. You can have somebody that's very intelligent, but not very wise. And sometimes you can have a very wise person that has little to no intelligence, right? And we're talking about intelligence, whereas schooling and all those things that go along with that, right? That's what we usually call somebody that's intelligent. But I've met plenty of people that have only gone to 7th or 8th grade in school that have a lot of intelligence and are also very wise. But wisdom comes with time, right? There's 2 types of wisdom that we really have. There's the wisdom that the world gives us, right? We have gained wisdom and intelligence when we learn how to do our job, when we have our families, when we gain wisdom, when we learn how to take care of our children, take care of each other, right? We gain in wisdom, right? We gain in wisdom when we go to the store, when we go out to the community, when we read a book. We gain intelligence, we gain wisdom, but it's different, right? The other wisdom that we look for is the divine wisdom. But how do you get that divine wisdom? How do you actually attain it? Well, that comes with a lot of time, right? A lot of patience. And truly, some of the most wise people are the children. Why is that? Because a lot of times, the wisdom of the world clouds our wisdom of the divinity, right? Of the divine. Why do you think Jesus said, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, we must first become like children? Right? Why is that? Because oftentimes, I remember when we were first, I think it was actually before, I don't remember what year Irma came through here, but I remember when we were sitting, we rented a house, we left Port St. Lucie, and we rented a house here. And as the storm was going over Florida, my son was fast asleep in the bed. I was up all night, praying and praying and praying, kind of worrying, praying over my family, praying over everything that was going on, but my son was fast asleep. What kind of wisdom did he have over me? Where trust came naturally. Trust came with that wisdom that he has. And trust me, as he gets older and as I start teaching him, he has been teaching me the wisdom of God as I try to teach him the wisdom of God. That wisdom is kind of reciprocal. St. Nectarios had a saying where he said, you have to seek God within your heart, right? Within yourself. Because if you start seeking God without your heart, right, on the outside of yourself, then that's where the evil one starts to come in, and he opens it up for you to start judging. St. Nectarios, if you have seen the movie, or if you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to give you very many spoilers with it, but there was a lot of things that happened in the movie with St. Nectarios that really brought some perspective into my life, right? Some perspective, I apologize. I remember there was one scene in the movie, and while he was at the school where he was teaching, he was like the quartermaster, the head guy of the school, but the president was above him. But the president, strangely enough, wasn't a Christian. He didn't believe in God. He struggled with God. And there was one aspect when St. Nectarios came into the room and the president knocks these books off the table and screams at St. Nectarios. I don't remember what he screams about, but he screamed at St. Nectarios. You know what St. Nectarios did? It shows it in the movie. St. Nectarios went down, picked up the books, and he said, forgive me for making you angry. How many of us do that when our spouses make us angry? Right? How many of us, when my wife is angry at me, that I actually say, forgive me for making you angry? But those things come with time. The wisdom that we gain through God is something that builds up in us over time. And the thing is if we want the wisdom, it's a source that is never tapped. It's a source through the Holy Spirit, right? Sophia, wisdom. The wisdom that we gain through God is something that cannot be taken away from us, and it's something that is beyond the power of this world. It is something that can give us peace over anxiety, fear, and anger, and hatred. It's something that can give us the wisdom that we need to deal with whatever it is that's going on in the world. Oftentimes, when we argue with each other and when we get mad at each other, it's because we allow all those things that the world and its wisdom teaches us to infiltrate our mind. Our minds are usually full of things that we see on the news and full of things we see on Facebook and full of things that are fear and anxiety and terror. That's what usually is filling our minds. But we need to look within that place that we call the heart. And we need to allow the wisdom of God to fill us and to be part of that, part of us that can grow within us, so that way our minds and our heart become one. Because our minds, our natural state, as I have said to numerous people, as I have journeyed through my life, I have spent most of my life living the way I wanted to. Out of the 40-some years that I've been alive, I haven't been looking for God the way I am now. I feel like I've wasted most of my life not looking for God the way I am now. And all the things that I have gone through, all the heartaches that I have gone through, all the brokenness that I've gone through has led me to this point. And all of it was giving me wisdom to bring me here. That wisdom that I gained, that I was so angry at life for me going through it, all of those things helped me. All of those strengthened me and helped me to form me into the man that I am today. As I've told many of you who have come for confession, when you are going through this world and when you're starting to get closer to God, it's like God is Michelangelo, right? When Michelangelo looked at that piece of marble, he could see King David within the marble. He could see Moses in the marble. He could see it, where others could just see a piece of rock before them, a pillar or a stone marble. But Michelangelo, he could see through it all. And when he first starts, he would grab a hammer and a chisel, a big hammer and a big chisel. And he was so good at what he did, he would knock big pieces of that marble off. And when he got into a shape that was close, he would grab a smaller hammer and a smaller chisel, and he would knock more pieces of it off. And then when he got it really close, that's when he grabbed his detail hammer and his detail chisel. And that's when he would go to form the eyes, to form the nose, to form the mouth, to form the muscles, to form the hair. It was that detail. And if the stone could cry out, I guarantee that it would be screaming as the pieces were falling off. But as it got closer and closer, if the stone could realize what the master was doing to it, it would be full of joy. That's how we are. Any of you that have come, and I've shared that with you during confession, I've shared that with you. Because at the beginning of our journey, when our walk with God, he knocks these big pieces off of us, right? Things that really don't bother us, sort of bother us, those things start coming off of our life. And then when we get closer to the image of God, again, more things start coming off. But there's still stuff that we're holding on to. Music and movies, anger, anxiety, whatever it is, the closest things are hard to get rid of. But then we get close to the image of God. That's when he starts doing the detail. And then sometimes he starts over again. Because that image that he gets really close, when we realize that we need more wisdom, he gives it to us. When we realize that we need more of what God has to offer, he again knocks big pieces of us off, goes to the next layer, and then again starts detailing us. That should be a process that goes throughout our whole world to give us the wisdom that we need to deal with whatever's coming our way. It doesn't matter how old or how young we are. We need Sophia. We need wisdom to fill us, to guide us, and to make us the men and women that we are destined to be. Our first and foremost should be to desire God above everything. Seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, right? That's what Jesus tells us in the book of Matthew. Seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and then everything else will be added unto you. Now we have to be persistent. One of my spiritual children came to me and said, I keep on getting the verses about the widow that was persistent going to God. And we have to be persistent. We can never stop going to God and asking him, please bless my spouse. Please bless my church. Please heal me. Please strengthen me. We should be just like that persistent widow that's going before the unjust judge. And after he hears us so many times, that he will answer our prayer. I don't know how God works, but I do know he hears our prayers. I don't know how long I have to go through the pains that I go through, but I know whatever it is that I'm going through, if God wants me to serve, he'll give me the strength. I've understood that through the wisdom that he's given me. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it would have probably not been so. But whatever it is that comes into your life, thank God for him detailing you and making you into the man and woman that you need to be. And now that we're starting to have some children, like Asher and Cooper in the church, it's up to the parents to start detailing their children, to teach them what it is and who it is that God is. You have to often put yourself off to the side in order to lead your children into the right path, because we are responsible for our children. And I know I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. And now that I have many spiritual children, I pray that God will continue bringing me closer to him, so that way, when I stand before him, I can hear, well done and good and faithful servant. So let us glorify the Lord today as we celebrate the rest of liturgy of St. Nectarios, that we can praise his name forever.